Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. Today I'm taking a break from pants adjustments to answer one of my J Stern Designs Fit Sew Embroider members fitting question about her top. And what's going on with her top is that the sleeve and the shoulder seam is behind her neck. You can see that the whole sleeve and shoulder is behind her neck because her neck is sitting forward. So what I want to do is share how to fix that. Now, a lot of times when you see, something like the situation and the back appears to be not coming up high enough, you may be tempted to try doing a high round back adjustment. Now, this adjustment will lengthen the center back seam, but it also curves the center back seam and adds shape to it. It's more of needing to pull up the shoulder and bring the shoulder more forward to line up with the neck. And then this will allow the sleeve to fit properly. So let me show you how I would adjust for this. Now I have front and back mini pieces here. And what I want to do is first, let me just fold my shoulder seam here so you can see. So what we're dealing with is, if I fold my pattern like this and just line up my shoulder seams, what we need to do is lengthen this and reduce this because the fabric in the back needs to come up higher to reach the center of the shoulder and be more in a line with your neck. So what we're going to do, let's work with the front first. And basically, not only would you want to adjust the shoulder, but you may also want to adjust the neckline as well, because if the whole front of you needs to be shortened and your neck is forward, it may be causing your neckline to droop lower than it would if it were in position. So we can also lower the neckline. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a couple guidelines with my ruler. And basically what I want to do here is I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to draw myself a guideline that looks like this, from the armhole end of the shoulder to just below the neckline. And I am going to slash that, and I'm going to pivot at the shoulder. Now this allows us to adjust or move the whole thing. Now there's a lot of variations that you may need to do with this adjustment depending on how your shoulder seam is fitting. Sometimes the shoulder seam is going to be right at the tip of the shoulder, but then veer forward at the neck. But you can see in this situation, the seam at the tip of the shoulder is also behind the center of the neck. So we are going to have to adjust for the position of that as well. So if you didn't need to adjust the shoulder there, you could pivot here, and actually I'm going to make a second control point up at this side. So this control point that I added here, this extra vertical slash, is going to allow me to control the adjustment. So let's say I need to bring my shoulder at the neckline forward an inch. Or no, let's say a half an inch. So I'm just going to draw that here. I'm going to draw it down here. Okay, so you've got a half an inch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to slide the neckline down that 1/2 inch. Okay, and I'm going to tape it into position. And you can see what happens is it also drags the shoulder down with it. So now my shoulder at the neckline edge is also down a 1/2 inch. Now, I just want to repeat myself. If your shoulder is okay at the tip of your shoulder and you just need to move it on the neckline edge, this is all you need to do. And don't worry about this little wedge that, opens here, because really it's just opening here because it's overlapping here. The total measurement of the shoulder did not change. We'll compare it to the original pattern in a minute, but basically that's all you would need to do to the front if it was just the neckline edge of the shoulder seam you needed to adjust. But in this case, you can see that we need to move the armhole edge of the shoulder seam forward a little bit as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to break my pivot, and I'm just going to make a measurement here. I don't think I need to move it quite as much, so I'm going to move it a little bit less, and I'm just going to slide it down into the new position. I've shortened the position of the shoulder seam at the armhole the amount I need, and I've also shortened the neckline. What I think would be fun to do here is, before I move on to the back, I'm going to cut this out, and we're going to put it onto the original front so you can see what it does. I always think it's fun to look at what the adjustment actually affects by comparing it to the original shape. So let me just cut this out, and let's stick it on the original pattern piece. And I'm just going to trace it for you so you can see. I'm going to draw what we changed. So I'm just going to trace the adjusted pattern onto the original pattern. Okay, so the only change we made was to change the position of the front shoulder and lower the neckline. All right, so that's kind of cool to show what this adjustment did to the front. Now let's look at the back. Now in the back, we're going to do the reverse. We need to bring the back up, and again, I'm going to make the same guidelines, but I'm going to spread them instead of overlapping them to raise up the back. So let me just draw from the tip of the shoulder and then through the back like this. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and draw my control point in, because we're going to need that. I'm going to dash that in there. And basically, I'm just going to repeat what I just did to the front in reverse for the back. So we are going to slash through the center back up to the shoulder. I'm going to make a pivot there for now, even though I know I'm going to end up spreading it. Now, we have to spread it the amount that we lowered the front so that the armhole stays the same length. That's important. So let me get my control point here. All right, so the first step is I want to raise my neckline. And you can see here, by doing this adjustment, you're raising the neckline up where it needs room. So instead of instead of making slashes lower, you're really targeting the area that needs to be raised, right at the base of the neck and right at the shoulder, versus slashing and spreading down lower to make a longer shaped seam for a high round back. I'm just going to use my little, I'm going to put my little Post-it note under there so you can see. So I'm going to raise that up. like this. And I'm just going to tack that down for a second. Then I'm going to pick off the pivot at the shoulder, and I'm going to raise that up as well. And what we want to do here is we want to make sure we're raising it the same amount that we lowered. So whatever measurement you lowered, so in my case I lowered it a quarter, I'm going to raise it a quarter. Okay, and that way the armhole will remain the same length and you can put the sleeve in. All right, so now you can see here what has been changed, and actually my little post-it note wasn't quite long enough, so let me just stick another little piece of paper under there. And then let's cut this out and we can compare this adjusted pattern piece to the original. Okay, so I'm cutting this out. All right, and then let's compare to the original back. Now, because I should have cut out the original because that's the one that's going to be smaller. So let me just cut out my original back here. Okay. So now I can put my original back right on top of the adjusted back. And again, I'm going to trace what changed. And in this case, I'm going to be tracing it on the adjusted piece. So you can see what happened was we raised the back neckline and shoulder this amount. So that's going to take care of bringing the back forward and shortening the front to reduce the extra vertical length you need there. Now you may be wondering what to do about the sleeve. Because you made a like adjustment front to back in the armhole, meaning you shorten the front the same amount you lengthen the back, you don't need to change the shape of the back armhole, but you are going to have to adjust the notch at the shoulder. So what I recommend doing is sewing the sleeve into the armhole from notch to notch through the underarm, and then pin it through so you can see how the notch is also going to have to shift forward a little bit. So you'll be removing some of the ease in the front and transferring it to the back. All right, so that will complete this adjustment to fix this problem. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fit Tip Tuesday. Next week, I will be sharing how to do a sway back adjustment on pants or skirts. And spoiler alert, it's the reverse of what you would do for a top. So join me for Fit Tip Tuesday next week for a sway back on pants and skirts. I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.